Amusement.
No explanation?
Possibly. I suspect hysteria has a lot to do with them.
These charges can be substantiated.
Can they? Take Wilkinson's rape allegation. 2 men, neither of whom she can identify, were able to gain access to what passes as the securest section of this prison. Despite the officer on duty, they committed rape and departed unnoticed and without leaving any evidence.
There'll be further examinations of Wilkinson.
That need to be. And I'd suggest there be some on Mrs. Morris as well. It seems that her neuroses is so extreme she can't differentiate between civility and sexual innuendo.
That is insulting and completely without foundation.
Then no doubt they're tactics that you're familiar with, Mrs. Reynolds.
Oh, let us confine ourselves to the issues, please. Go on.
As for my posing a security threat, well, that's laughable. It was Mrs. Reynolds who ordered the integration of the Blackmore men with the women held here.
The integration?
Hardly that. The prisoners had temporary and limited access to each other.
Well, whatever it was, it resulted in several of the women attacking and stripping a male prisoner. Now, is this an example of the cast-iron security that I'm putting at risk?
That incident was of a minor nature.
Perhaps. But doesn't it typify the way you run Wentworth? In fact, Mrs. Reynolds, isn't that the real reason you're seeking to discredit me? Because my presence here threatens to expose your incompetence?
There is no foundation to that assertion whatsoever.
Reynolds, I'm sorry, but Mel Jones has escaped.
Escaped?
Well, no, not exactly. She just wandered off.
Thank you, Mrs. Pringle.
Wandered? From where?
Probably solitary.
Oh, no, she was on a shopping excursion.
Thank you, Mrs. Pringle.
Yes.
Minister, I hope you'll reserve judgment on this matter until you've interviewed Lorelei Wilkinson.
Excuse me, please. May I have a word with you?
No. Can't it wait?
No. Excuse me. Do you have to go through with this?
What do you mean?
Lorelei showered.
She's what? She knew she had to go.
I know. She's lied to Sister Hall, and now she's lying about why she did it. I'm sure of that. I can't get a word out of her, nor can Sister.
God, this is turning into a nightmare.
You can't put Dwyer off.
Just think how that would look.
Mrs. Reynolds, just how long is this going to take?
I suspect hardly any time at all. Wait.
That's the way they work it at Blackmore. They sling you into solitary and it'd be open season on you. And there's no way out.
So the message is to stay out of the pound?
Hey, tell that to Laurie.
Great. Way things are going, we got Buckley's.
Yeah, if Craven wants you in the pound, that's where you go. He'll fix the charge.
And the rape and the bashing, and he won't leave a trace.
Well, like I say, that's the way you work it at Blackmore.
Yeah, but this ain't Blackmore.
Give him time.
What I mean is, if you bawl your guts out of Blackmore, who comes running?
Every screw in the joint, they're really into it.
No, who comes to help?
Are you kidding?
That's what I'm getting at. Hit the button here and there's every chance a straight screw will get to you before it's all over.
Yeah, but you can't hear a bloody thing in the pound. Besides, with the freak and Craven up there, plenty of bent screws to keep the others busy.
Look, you couldn't pull this off at Blackmore, but maybe here.
What?
Well, what if we heard the alarm instead of the screws?
How do you mean?
Well, some poor bitch is getting the business up in solitary, right? She gets a signal down to us. We shake the place up until every screw in the joint's rolling around like oranges, and then we send them up to solitary.
Sounds okay, but how?
Communication.
That's my territory.
Kick that around later. Keep going.
And that's it. We just got to work it so we can get a Mayday from the pound down to here.
Brumby reckons you had that all tied up at Blackmore.
She's underestimating me. I had it running like clockwork.
Could you do it here?
I think so. Be a different deal. Newer building. Don't know about the plumbing or
That's
the
why it's my territory. Now, butt out.
Look, I can get you into the air conditioning room. There's pipes going everywhere up there.
Look, I can handle this. I know the place.
And Spike knows the score, so you work on it together. Got me?
All right, but it's a favour.
Seems to me anyone who's not working with us is working for Craven.
Spider?
Okay. But you owe me one, too.
I understand you've made some extremely distressing charges, Miss Wilkinson. I want you to recount them to me just as you allege the incidents occurred.
I'd rather not. Lorelei, please cooperate. I've explained about the showering, but you have to go through with this.
Mrs. Reynolds is right, Wilkinson. You do have to go through with this.
Oh, go on.
There was no rape.
What are you saying?
There was no rape. We were trying to set up Craven. We had to make sure that he was in on it. That way he'd be out of the way.
And what were you to get out of this?
It was going to be set up for an early parole.
By whom?
Mrs. Reynolds, of course.
She has obviously been intimidated.
Or tempted. Early parole is an effective lure.
This gets murkier the deeper we get into it. I find it difficult to believe what Wilkinson had to say.
I'm gratified.
Yet I have to give her statement credence.
On what grounds?
Mrs. Reynolds, the only indication that a rape had occurred was Wilkinson's statement. She's now withdrawn that and alleged the attempted compromise of Governor Craven, a compromise in which she says you were involved. Now, that is evidence.
Coerced.
Perhaps. But until we've verified that, I must relieve you of your duties as Governor of Wentworth. Mr. Craven will replace you in the capacity of acting governor.
Why? I know you were forced into it, and I know by whom. I just don't know how. If you just told the truth, we could have beaten him. You must have known I would have protected you. Well, if you change your mind, I wouldn't bother taking it up with Wentworth's new governor. Mr. Craven isn't a particularly sympathetic character. It's been obvious all along the way he operates. And I walked right into it with a sheaf of reports and expected to come out in one piece. He's put in so much groundwork, I wouldn't be surprised if he'd arranged Mel Jones' escape just to cap it off.
Well, what are you going to do about it?
I don't know. He's got the whole place hamstrung and me with it. I was out of line even speaking to Lorelei just now.
You know he'll turn Wentworth into another Blackmore.
I know it, and I can't do a thing about it. I was so sure we'd win. Maybe try and keep it quiet about Lorelei. If he gets back to the women, there's no telling what might happen to her. But with Craven in charge, there's no telling what might happen to any of them.
Jeez, give it a rest, will ya? I'm sick to bloody death of communication.
Well, it's my patch. It's the only one I've got since Maxwell muscled in on a trading, so I'm not going to lie down, close my eyes and think of Wentworth, right?
No one's asking you to. You and Spike are working on it together.
Yeah, how come Spike's the one Lurch takes out of the boiler room and I'm left sitting here?
You already know the layout.
Because one off the job's okay, two looks sus. But when there's three off the job, they call out the bloodhounds, all right?
Are we getting through to you?
No!
Oh, look, I gave him the key, didn't I?
There's a couple missing ladies. Where are they?
Spike's on skip duty and Alice is in the loo.
Could you give us a hand with this? It's bloody well platted.
Hey, the water's getting cold, Mrs. Pringle. How about checking the boiler room?
Oh, I wouldn't know what to check. I'll call maintenance.
Oh, no, you're better off checking the gauges. All you got to do is make sure the indicators are up to the red. That's all.
Oh, well, I think you're in the wrong business, but I'll see what I can do.
Come on, hurry up. We can't hang around here much longer.
It's gonna take time. There's no telling where half the stuff ends up. Look around for some plans.
Well, what kind of plans?
Anything. Plumbing, air conditioning, doesn't matter.
You sure you can pull this off?
Once I figure the setup. Listen, you know solitary.
Like a sow knows its pen. What about it?
Any pipes run through it. Water, air ducts, anything at all.
Well, there's a pipe around the floor. It's water, I suppose. There's an air vent. Oh, get it.
What was that all about?
Oh, I don't know. But if we get sprung in here, we'll be working this out in solitary.
Well, I could do it if I had a set of plans. This is hopeless.
Just get off my back. I had to report her.
Yeah, well, if you'd just waited, we might have found her. God only knows what's going to happen to her now.
Well, that's up to the police.
I'm not going back without her.
You'll do as I say.
Oh, don't